The twin suns of Virelia beamed down on the capital's palace, a shining tower of glass and silver that stretched into the skies. Inside, thousands of alien guests filled the Grand Hall of Supremacy. Flags from dozens of star systems fluttered. Gold-armored guards stood tall. It was the biggest event in the galaxy, the day Queen Avanzir would declare her final rule over the outer worlds. At the center of the room stood a human. His name was Caleb Voss, private first class of the United Earth Guard, now a ceremonial, protector in the Virelian Empire. He stood at attention, unmoving, dressed in silver armor with Earth's faded blue symbol on his chest. He was surrounded by towering alien warriors. The Virelians were tall, graceful, and strong. With their 4 glowing eyes and shimmering green skin, they looked down on Caleb like he was an animal kept for show. Above him, on her golden throne, sat Queen Avanzir. She was tall and fierce, dressed in robes made of star silk. Her crown floated inches above her head, spinning slowly. Her voice echoed through the hall as she addressed the crowd. "Today," she declared, "we celebrate the end of resistance. The Earth War is over. The humans now serve with honor, as they should." Cheers erupted. Alien delegates clapped, some laughing. The Queen stood and slowly walked toward Caleb. Her 4 eyes scanned him like he was a bug under glass. The room went silent. "You," she said, her voice dripping with amusement. "Human. What is your name?" "Private Caleb." "Voss," he replied, standing straight. "So serious," she smirked. "So small. Tell me, Private Voss, does it make you proud to serve your conquerors?" Caleb said nothing. "Ah, but you must speak when your queen asks," she pressed. "You see, this ceremony is not only about celebration, it is also about truth. And the truth is, you humans are not fit to lead. You are not wise. You are not strong. You are useful tools. Nothing more." The crowd laughed. Caleb clenched his fists behind his back. His jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. Avanzir circled him slowly. "Kneel," she commanded. The air in the room went heavy. He didn't move. The Queen's eyes narrowed. "Kneel, or your world will be reminded of its place." There was a long pause. Then slowly, with eyes full of fire, Caleb bent one knee. He didn't look down. He didn't bow his head. He stared straight at her. Not with hate, but with a quiet promise. The Queen smiled, satisfied. "This," she announced, turning back to the crowd, "is the place of humanity, strong enough to be of use, but never more." Applause filled the air again. The ceremony continued, but for Caleb, something inside had changed. He wasn't just angry. He was awakened. Later that night, the halls of the palace were quiet. Caleb stood at his post outside the Queen's chambers. The stars above shone through the glass ceiling. His comm unit buzzed softly in his ear. A coded voice spoke. "Voss, report." He spoke without moving his lips. "Virelian security systems weak in the East Wing. Drone patrols use predictable paths. Internal guard rotations every 4 hours, no redundancies." There was a pause. "Copy that. Continue observation. Do not engage." Caleb blinked twice to confirm. He wasn't just a guard. He was a plant, part of a long plan by Earth's Strategic Command to monitor the Empire from within. The humiliation had been real. The shame burned in his chest. But now, it was fuel. The galaxy had to believe humans were beaten. Only then would they lower their guard. He looked up at the stars, thinking of home. Someday they would rise, not with hate, but with something stronger, with hope. The golden halls of the Virelian palace were quiet at night. The crowds were gone. The lights were soft. The guards marched in silence. Most people believed that the Empire was calm and powerful. But Caleb Voss saw something else. Weakness. Caleb had served in many places during the war, but nothing felt stranger than standing in this palace. The place was full of beauty, but no soul. Shining statues, glass walls, floating candles. Everything was for show. Behind it all, the Virelians were proud and arrogant. They believed they had crushed humanity forever. But Caleb knew better. He moved through the halls like a ghost, watching and listening. He remembered every corner, every camera, every strange alien machine he saw. Other humans in the palace worked as servants, cleaners, and tech assistants. Most were afraid to speak out. Caleb didn't blame them. He just smiled at them kindly and kept walking. One evening, while walking past the throne room, Caleb saw a young human technician drop a data tool. A Varelian overseer shouted at him and slapped him across the face with a long metal rod. "Clumsy thing. Be grateful we let your kind live," the alien barked. The human boy didn't reply. He just picked up the tool and ran. Caleb stood nearby, watching quietly. He didn't move. Not yet. In the quiet of his quarters, Caleb opened a secret panel behind the wall. Inside was a small device the size of his palm. It blinked with a blue light. He placed a finger on it. A voice spoke softly. "Agent Voss, report." Caleb whispered, "The Queen's inner circle is growing unstable. Her brother, Lord Virek, disagrees with her ruling style. Several governors are nervous about the human workforce getting smarter. I believe the palace is not united." "Progress?" "I've mapped out 70% of the palace. Found weak points in shield control, security doors, and defense. Drones. They trust their technology too much. They forget how humans think." "Good work. Continue. No action yet. Be patient." Caleb nodded. "Understood." He placed the device back in the wall and sat down. He remembered the Queen's words during the ceremony. "You are tools." But he wasn't a tool. He was a weapon. A quiet one. Waiting. A few days later, a royal banquet was held in the upper dome. Hundreds of Varelian nobles arrived, wearing glowing robes and speaking in their strange, floating language. Human staff moved through the crowd, carrying trays, serving drinks. Caleb stood at his post, eyes scanning the room. Suddenly, a voice whispered in his ear. "Target sighted, upper balcony, non-authorized." Caleb turned his head slightly. High above, near the control lights, a shadow moved. It was fast, too fast for a servant. He blinked once, activating his visor. A heat signature flashed. Someone was up there, armed. Caleb didn't wait. He broke protocol and rushed up the spiral stairs. The alien guards shouted behind him, confused. Caleb reached the balcony just in time to see a small, cloaked figure aiming a weapon down at Queen Avanzir. Without hesitation, Caleb tackled the figure. They rolled across the floor. A laser bolt fired into the ceiling. Screams came from below. The assassin pulled a knife. Caleb blocked it with his forearm armor and punched hard. The attacker fell back, dazed. Alien guards finally arrived and grabbed the figure. When they removed the mask, it was shocking. A Varelian noble. Avanzir looked up from the hall. Her 4 eyes met Caleb's. For once, she didn't smile. Later, in a private chamber, Caleb stood before the Queen. "You saved my life," she said, staring at him. "Why?" Caleb stood straight. "Because I was trained to protect, even when others forget our worth." She tilted her head. "You do not speak like a servant." "I'm not," Caleb replied. For a moment, there was silence. "Who do you serve, then?" she asked slowly. "I serve something you wouldn't understand, a world you think is broken, but it's stronger than you know." The Queen leaned forward. "You interest me, human. Most of your kind keep their heads down." Caleb didn't respond. He didn't need to. She looked at him longer, then waved her hand. "You may leave. For now." Caleb walked away, knowing something had changed. A crack had formed in the Queen's mind. Doubt. Days passed. Strange things began happening in the palace. A security drone suddenly shut down near a restricted lab. A control panel overloaded in the eastern tower. Several data files from the royal archives vanished without a trace. The Queen was growing nervous. She called secret meetings. She questioned her advisors. But the humans inside the palace started walking a little taller. Caleb had started something. Not just in data systems, but in people. A new energy filled them. Not fear, purpose. One night, a fellow human guard, Samira, whispered to him in the corridor. "You said nothing during the ceremony, but we all saw how you stood. We talk about it. All of us. You gave us something." Caleb looked at her and gave a small nod. "Then hold on to it. We're not done yet." As the palace lights dimmed that night, Caleb stood alone by the window looking at the stars again. The queen thought she had broken him. But what she did that day, the way she humiliated him in front of the galaxy, had only lit a fire. He wasn't planning revenge. He was planning a future, and he wasn't alone. Guards were stricter. Security. Drones flew faster through the halls. Varelian officers whispered among themselves. Something had changed since the assassination attempt. Queen Avanzir had grown quiet. She didn't speak with the same pride in her voice. Her steps were slower. Her four eyes watched everything now, especially Caleb Voss. Caleb, however, walked with the same calm and control. He had not said anything about the assassin since that day. He didn't ask questions. He didn't brag. But inside, his mind was busy. The attack had not surprised him. He had known for weeks that unrest was growing inside the empire. Many of the queen's own people were turning against her. Some wanted power. Others were afraid of her rule. But most of all, they were angry at her decision to keep humans close. To the rebels, humans were weak. But now one of them had saved the queen's life. The truth could not be hidden forever. Later that week, Caleb entered the lower machine bay. The room was hot and noisy. Pipes hissed with steam. Alien workers moved around, checking systems and fixing cables. Among them were several humans, working in silence. Caleb walked up to a worker named Marcus, a thin man with oily hands and tired eyes. "Status?" Caleb asked softly. Marcus looked around to make sure no one was listening. Then he nodded. "We placed the bypass code into the drone system. If needed, you can shut down half of them with one command. Eastern Gate is also ready. Weak shield frequency, just like you guessed." "Good," Caleb said. "Keep it quiet, we don't move yet." Marcus nodded again, then returned to work. Caleb turned and walked back to his post, passing other humans. Some of them gave him small nods. Others just looked at him with quiet respect. He had become more than a guard. He had become a symbol. That evening, during a small royal banquet, Caleb was called to stand inside the queen's private dining hall. Only a few elite aliens were present, high lords and advisors. Queen Avanzir sat at the long crystal table, sipping a glowing blue drink. She looked at Caleb. "Come forward," she said. He stepped toward her, keeping his posture strong and calm. "I heard," she said slowly, "that some humans are growing bold. Do you know why?" Caleb kept his voice even. "They are starting to believe they are more than servants." The queen raised a brow. "And are they?" Caleb met her eyes. "Yes." The room fell quiet. Some of the alien nobles stared in shock. One even scoffed. Avanzir said nothing, for a moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, she let out a soft laugh. "You are brave. I see why you were chosen for the throne guard." "I wasn't chosen," Caleb replied. "I was placed." Her smile faded slightly. "Placed?" "Yes, I was sent here, to observe, to learn, and now, to act, if needed." Gasps filled the room. One alien lord stood up. "He threatens the queen." But Avanzir raised a hand, stopping them. "Let him speak." Caleb looked directly at her. "I saved your life because it was right, not because I serve you. You think humans are weak, but we are not. We adapt. We survive. And when the time is right, we rise." Avanzir looked at him for a long time. Then she stood. "Leave us," she told the others. The alien nobles, left in silence, throwing glances back at Caleb. When the room was empty, the queen walked slowly to the window. "The stars outside were bright tonight." Do you know why I humiliated you? She asked. Caleb said nothing. She continued, because I was afraid of what your kind might become, of what you might inspire. She turned to him. I wanted the galaxy to see humans kneel. I wanted you to kneel, because I thought that if you looked weak, others would stay calm. Caleb's voice was quiet but firm. You were wrong. Yes, she whispered. I was. That night across the palace, something unexpected happened. In the control towers, a human engineer named Juno locked out a Varelian officer from the terminal. In the drone bay, Marcus disabled 2 scout units without alerting the system, and in the staff quarters, humans gathered in secret, sharing messages and small plans. The royal palace glowed gold and blue as the sun dipped below the horizon. Soft music played in the air, coming from small floating crystals that sang in strange, beautiful harmonies. Jake stood in the center of the garden, wearing a long robe, made of soft cloth and shiny scales. He tugged at the collar. I look like a disco curtain, he muttered. Beside him, a short alien priest held a scroll and kept sneezing from earth pollen Jake had brought in on his boots. Princess Varel floated into the garden, wearing a cloak of silver threads and armor plates on her shoulders. Her wheelchair, throne moved like it was gliding over water. Behind her stood 10 nobles from 10 different houses. Most looked annoyed. This is a bad idea, whispered one. A human? Really? Muttered another. Jake pretended not to hear, but his hands were sweaty. Varel reached him and gave a small nod. Try not to say anything stupid. No promises, Jake said. The priest cleared his throat. By the old laws of flame and star, this union shall now be sealed. The binding of 2 paths shall begin. Jake looked confused. Wait, is this gonna hurt? No, said Varel, unless you mess it up. The priest handed them both a glowing crystal. They had to press it to their foreheads. Jake almost dropped his. Sorry, still learning alien stuff. Varel rolled her eyes. Just follow me. They touched the crystal to their skin. It glowed bright blue. For a second, Jake saw a flash of something. Memories. Feelings. A connection. It was like standing in cold wind and warm light at the same time. Then it was over. It is done, the priest said. The nobles clapped half-heartedly. Fireworks shot into the sky, strange shapes and sounds that made the palace walls hum. Jake looked at Varel. So, that's it? We're married? By law and spirit, she said, and for now. Later. That night, Jake sat on the edge of a big bed in a huge royal guest room. He looked around at the weird plants on the walls and the furniture that didn't make sense. I miss chairs with legs, he said. The door opened. Varel rolled, in wearing a soft robe, her long hair tied back. She stopped near the bed. You don't have to sleep on the floor, she said. I can take the couch, Jake offered. There is no couch. Jake looked again. Well, then I'll take, the weird plant nest over there. Varel gave a soft laugh. Very well. She wheeled to a console and tapped something. A hologram of the planet appeared. Blinking red lights showed unrest in several cities. Jake stood and walked over. That doesn't look good. It's not, she said. Some nobles think marrying a human makes me weak. Others think it makes me dangerous. Everyone is nervous. Jake nodded. Good, let them be nervous. Varel turned to him. You really don't care what anyone thinks, do you? Not really, he said. I've been called a space rat, junk dealer, thief, and walking violation. What's one more insult? She studied him. You are strange. Human. Same thing. The next morning, Jake was dragged out of bed by 2 royal assistants, tall bird-like aliens with serious faces. Urgent meeting, one said. Can I brush my teeth first? No time. They pulled him into a golden hallway where 10 nobles argued loudly in a chamber that looked like it was carved from a giant pearl. Your Majesty, said one, this marriage is a mistake. Agreed, said another. He is uncultured. Earth is barely even space-worthy. Jake raised a hand. Still in the room, folks. Silence, outsider, snapped a tall noble with crystal armor. Hey, Jake said, stepping forward. I may be an outsider, but I just married your princess. So either treat me with some respect or I start teaching Earth diplomacy, which begins with a punch and ends with sarcasm. Gasps filled the room. Varel smiled, just a little. Enough, she said. Jake is my partner now. And he has more courage than most of you. The room quieted, but the anger still hung in the air like smoke. Later that week, Jake walked through the palace gardens with Varel. She moved easily in her hover chair, guiding it with just small hand motions. Jake had asked her about her injury once, and she simply said, accident. Political. He didn't push. As they walked, he noticed guards moving closer. What's with the extra security? There have been threats, Varel said calmly. Against me? No, against me. They want the marriage undone. Jake frowned. Is that possible? She looked at him. Do you want it undone? He paused. I don't know. I didn't come here planning to get married, but you're smart, brave. And you didn't cry when I broke that vase. She laughed. It was a priceless relic. And you laughed. That counts for something. They reached a fountain shaped like a star. Varel stopped her chair and looked at the water. When I was a child, she said softly, I dreamed of being a general, leading fleets across the stars. Then I lost the use of my legs, and everything changed. I became a symbol instead of a soldier. Jake sat beside her, on the edge of the fountain. You still lead, I've seen it. I lead with words, she said. You lead with action. That's why I think we might actually be useful to each other. Jake looked out at the stars. You're not what I expected. Neither are you, she said. You're worse. Jake grinned. Thank you. The sky above Tarzul was no longer peaceful. 3 days after the royal wedding, rebel ships attacked a military outpost near the outer rim. Explosions lit up the night. Communication towers went dark. The noble houses panicked. Some whispered that the marriage had cursed the empire. Jake stood at the palace balcony, watching black smoke rise far in the distance. The fire was small from here, but it meant war was getting closer. Do you still think this marriage is just temporary? Varel asked beside him. Jake looked at her. To be honest, I stopped thinking about that the day someone tried to poison your tea. She nodded slowly. The nobles suspect each other, but I believe it was the rebels. Jake frowned. Then it's time we stop playing nice. The briefing room. The next morning, Jake entered the military command room. Holograms floated above a round table, showing red flashing dots across the system. Half the generals stood up when he walked in. The others looked like they wanted him thrown out. I called this meeting, Varel said, entering behind Jake, because my husband has an idea. Murmurs filled the room. Jake stepped forward. You guys keep fighting the rebels like it's a board game. Positioning fleets, blocking trade, sitting around. This is a civil war, a general said. We must act with honor. Jake pointed at the hologram. The rebels don't care about honor. They blow up hospitals, kidnap engineers, use cloaking tech we don't even understand. Then what do you suggest, outsider? Jake smiled. Let me show you what humans do when we get desperate. The Mercer Unit. 2 days later, Jake stood on a training field inside the old palace barracks. A group of aliens stood before him, each one different. Some with tails, some with wings, others with cybernetic limbs. These were soldiers no one wanted. Misfits, outcasts, wounded or exiled. Jake clapped his hands. Welcome to the Mercer Unit. A four-armed warrior frowned. You are not even a real commander. Jake grinned. Nope, but I'm still in charge. They trained with old weapons, repaired gear, and learned strange human tactics. Jake taught them surprise attacks, bait and ambush, hiding explosives in cargo crates, and how to fight dirty. He even taught them an Earth War song, which they sang loudly and badly. Varel watched the training from her hover chair. She smiled quietly as Jake led drills with loud energy and bad jokes. For the first time in weeks, the palace felt alive again. First mission, the ghost ship. Jake's team boarded a small stolen freighter and flew to the border zone. Their mission, investigate a missing supply ship that vanished near an asteroid field. Stay sharp, Jake said. This smells like bait. He was right. A rebel drone ship attacked the moment they reached the wreck. Lasers flashed. The freighter shook. One of Jake's team was thrown across the room. Hold tight, Jake yelled, pulling the freighter into a spiral dive. The others looked terrified. Jake punched a side panel. This ship is garbage, but she's our garbage. They used asteroid cover to dodge the enemy, then deployed homemade magnetic mines. The rebels tried to follow, but their ship exploded. In a sudden burst of fire, Jake whooped, "That's how we do it on Earth." The aftermath back at the palace, news of the rebel defeats spread fast. The nobles started whispering different things now. Maybe the human has value. Maybe the princess knew what she was doing. Varel met Jake in the war room. You made them listen. I made them sweat, Jake replied. There's a difference. You're building something dangerous, she said. A legend. Jake looked at her seriously. I'm not trying to be a hero. I just want to protect you and maybe punch a few bad guys on the way. Varel tilted her head. Careful, you're starting to sound like royalty. The spy. That night, a message arrived on a hidden channel. It came from a captured rebel commander. The message was simple. You think the war is local. It's not. You married into a war far bigger than this world. Jake played the message 3 times. He looked at Varel. What does it mean? She frowned. It means someone